you don't just wish for tax cuts. You don't just wish for limiting a woman's right to choose. You don't just wish for making it easier to promulgate gun violence. You wish for more wishes. You wish for districts that will make it harder for democracy to limit you. You wish for unlimited secret money. You wish for making it harder for people to cast a ballot. You wish for making it so that some people aren't even listed on the list that allows them to cast a ballot. You wish for more wishes. In the wake of the last time Democrats took control of Congress, I met with a lobbyist who said the most important thing the Democrats need to do is political reform. That was not what they did. They worked on health care, which was critically important. Right now, there is another debate. In Congress, we can know what the House might do. We also know what the Senate might do. But there are also states and localities that made decisions in 2018 and will make more in the coming year. Joining us right now is Hedrick Smith. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist, a PBS producer, the author of several books, including Who Stole the American Dream. He joins us now with his case, 2018 as a boom year for political reform, maybe wishing for more wishes. Hedrick, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you, Jefferson. You're right on.
So what have you already seen in 2018 that you think maybe not enough people are paying attention to?
Well, I think this is the missing story of American politics, as far as I'm concerned, as a reporter who's been out there covering stuff for a long time. This was really a boom year for reform at all kinds of issues, at all kinds of levels, in all kinds of different states. The jackpot, of course, was gerrymander reform, which is just what you were talking about, the shaping of the election. I mean, if you can rig the districts in favor of your party, then you know you're going to do well on whatever your issues are, immigration, gun control, health care, whatever, okay? But what was amazing this year, that citizens took the initiative to put gerrymander reform, that is to take the business of manipulating election maps out of the hands of the state legislature, out of the hands of the politicians who want to keep themselves in office, and put them in the hands of a much more neutral or bipartisan solution. And it happened in Ohio. It happened in Michigan. It happened in Missouri. It happened in Colorado. It happened in Utah, believe it or not, in Utah. 5 states this year voted in gerrymander reform, and 2 other states, very significantly, Pennsylvania and Florida, already are applied in this year's election, a gerrymander reform that was imposed by courts responding to citizen lawsuits of citizen reform. In Florida, there's been a switch of 3 seats from Republicans to Democrats. It's not just the party that matters. It's the fact that they're more competitive districts, so voters have more choice, so other candidates have more chance. Same thing happened in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, after the 2011 Republican gerrymander, has had 13 Republicans and 5 Democrats, even though the vote has been almost 50-50 even split. But this year, under court order reform of gerrymandering in Pennsylvania, the split was 9-9. In other words, the House delegation that was elected looks more like what the vote actually was at the polls and what the state looks like when you look at party registration and so forth. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing. But, I mean, in Florida, you had an enormous breakthrough. In this year, we don't know what the outcome of the Senate and the governor's races are because they're still counting them, but there was a 64% majority of Floridians who voted.
It wasn't a close vote. The thing that surprised me wasn't even close. It was almost 2/3.
Well, and the thing is, it was a constitutional amendment to restore the voting rights of 1.4 million former felons.
And the felons couldn't vote. I mean, they got 2/3 without the people that it would directly benefit being able to participate.
Yeah, and what's amazing about this is we're looking at a couple of very tight races in Florida. And people are complaining, but they shouldn't be complaining. This is a good thing. If you've got tight races, it means the politics are competitive. It means every vote counts. It means the candidates have to work harder. It's not slanted one way or another. I mean, this is the way you want. Democracy is about competition, competition of ideas, competition of parties, competition of personalities. That's what you want. But when you throw into Florida in 2020 another million-plus voters,
yeah,
By the way, there's been a survey done by the Miami paper and the Tampa Bay paper, and they found out that about 52% of the people who were former felons who've served their time and not convicted of murder or sex offense, that 52% of them are Democrats, about 18% are Republicans, and the rest are independents. So that could tilt the results in the future. So the reform, what you were saying before, the gateway, fixing the political system, has a tremendous impact on policy.
And this is why I respect and appreciate your work so much, and appreciate you spending some time with us here, is that trying to put this stuff more front and center. It seems, in some respects, seems so obvious, right? Because for two reasons. One, the results are enormously important. And two, it's actually pretty popular. Why do you think that political reforms end up taking a back burner, or is that overstating the case?
No, I think number one, there are two reasons. One reason is the media right now is very cynical about reform. I've finished a 1-hour documentary for MSNBC on successful reform efforts. Dark money exposed in California, public funding in Connecticut, fighting for voters' rights in North Carolina, gerrymander reform in Florida, things like that. MSNBC has been sitting on that documentary for 3 or 4 months. Why? Because there's sexier news. What's the sexier news? Well, Khashoggi, Kavanaugh, Trump, anti-Trump, Putin. It's personality news. That's the second reason. People are interested in personality politics. Process, what we're talking about, fixing our broken democracy, sounds like wonky stuff. What's good is, Jefferson, what's really good is there are a whole bunch of people all around this country who are waking up to the fact that this is not wonky stuff. This is the nuts and bolts of whether or not you get the kind of healthcare system you want, whether or not you get the minimum wage raised, whether or not you get environment protected, whether or not you get some kind of gun safety. You can't get to where you want to go on the issue you want to get to unless the doorway is open. And what's happened is in a lot of states, the doorway is closed, half closed, 3/4 closed, or worse. So you have a slew of states that brought in automatic voter registration this year, motor voter registration. You've got a bunch of states that brought in same-day registration. I just literally 2 minutes before we came on the air saw that Maine, using ranked choice voting, which means you vote for the first choice and your second choice and so forth, that ranked choice voting changed the victory for the 2nd congressional district in Maine.
Wow.
The Democrat who came in second as the first choice, about 5,000 or 6,000 votes behind the Republican, got many more second choice votes and therefore won. So that political reform of the system, people in Maine saying, look, we're tired of having 3 candidates in the race and an independent drags off a bunch of votes, and we don't know how those people would have voted. We want to include their votes. So what they said in Maine is, if you don't get 50%, you got to go into rank order choice. And if you got more second choice votes than the other guy, or the other woman, then you win because you were the higher choice of more people. And our idea is to get the highest choice, to represent the state as best as possible. You had Connecticut, interesting, another reform that's going on. We've had 2 elections since 2000 in which the national popular vote winner, Al Gore in 2000 and Hillary Clinton in 2016, lost the race. Why? Because of the Electoral College. Well, the Electoral College favors small states because they get the same number of senators as, Wyoming gets the same number of senators as California. Less than 1 million people in Wyoming, more than almost 40 million people in California. Okay, so people are saying, how can we fix this? It's really hard to amend the Constitution. The idea is this compact among the states. If enough states pass laws that say, we will cast our electoral votes for the national popular vote winner, regardless of the vote in our state. We will pick the national vote winner. If you can get states with 270 electoral votes to do that, you can actually go around the Electoral College. And in that case, Hillary Clinton and Al Gore would have been the winners in those elections. Happened 3 times in our history. So what they're doing is they're voting, and they voted in Connecticut. They just passed in Connecticut.
Hedrick Smith. We're going to break. Thank you so much for joining us. Admire your work. As we have said, this election wasn't just about Democrats. It was about democracy. People, you got to check out his blog, including his story about the badass grandmas. Thank you, Hedrick.
And go to The People versus the Politicians.
Hedrick, you still with us?
I'm still here.
All right, good. We got a few more minutes. I wanted you to tell us about the badass grandmas of North Dakota.
Let's do that.
Go ahead.
You ready?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we're on the air. Republican Dina Butcher, okay. Democrat Ellen Chafee. Okay. Yeah, we're with the Free Speech TV crew.
What interests me, I mean, imagine you calling yourselves from North Dakota, the badass grandmas of North Dakota. But the great thing about that story is not just the slogan. It is that these are a bunch of women. I'm looking at a picture of them now on my website, reclaimtheamericandream.org, and they're sitting there with their fists up in the air and looking at you.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture now. It's great.
These are just ordinary women who said, we're tired of big money in our elections. We're tired of corruption. We're tired of foreign money coming in. We're tired of people leaving the state government, the legislature, or being governor or being the governor's assistant or whatever, and turning around becoming lobbyists and making lots of money for special interests. So they said, we're going to drum up a reform. In North Dakota, we're grandmas, and we want to fix the state. And everybody said, they laughed at them. They said, you can't do that. The pros are against it. The state Republican leadership came out and said,
and pause for a second. Before, when I'd asked the reasons, you had talked about the media. There is another that so much of the political apparatus is opposed to change because they gained power under the current system and don't want to sacrifice that power. Anyway, keep going, but I wanted to capture that point.
I've done this documentary that underlines the point. It's called The People versus the Politicians. What's happening is people like the badass grandmas in North Dakota are waking up to the fact that it isn't just Party A or Party B. It isn't just Democrats or Republicans. Politicians have a different interest from voters. They want to stay in power, and they're going to stack the rules. They're going to stack the election districts. They're going to stack voter ID. They're going to stack all the rules to keep themselves in power. Most of the time at the moment, Republicans are doing it, but Democrats are doing it in some states too. And people are starting to wake up to the fact, like these grandmas, that we, the people, have got to change the rules so we've got more choice. And so they put together this very sensible, common sense reform. No foreign contributions. Report all disclosure online of contributions immediately. Stop the revolving door between state officials and becoming lobbyists and so forth. They set these things out. They went out. They got, I think, 27,000 signatures to put their reform on the ballot. They put it on the ballot. The Republican leaders of the state said, we don't need reform. We don't need ethics reform. Politics in North Dakota are clean. And the grandma said, we don't buy that. We're pushing ahead. It cruised through to a very solid supermajority vote in North Dakota. So they've now got a clean elections law in North Dakota because a bunch of grandmas decided they want to do it.
And to me, it's a lesson.
It started from a 28-year-old graduate student.
And to me, it's a lesson that for so many of the listeners here who are wanting to have an impact, that if you are getting that doing this at the ballot in places where allow you to do things on the ballot, if you're getting blocked in your legislature, this is the kind of stuff that can pass. And it's the kind of stuff you don't have to live in San Francisco or Vermont in order to pass.
Yeah, and even if it's in the legislature, you can raise enough of a stink that people are embarrassed. I mean, what happened in Ohio was the people started pushing for gerrymander reform, and the legislature got so embarrassed, it got behind it.
Hedrick, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for your work, man. Really appreciate it. My brother from another mother.
Great.